Okay, so get this. Every single day, thousands of new research studies get published. It's just this overwhelming flood of information. So how does anyone, a doctor, a policymaker, you name it, figure out what's actually true? How do they make these huge decisions when the evidence is scattered across like a million different papers? Let's dive into that. It's a huge challenge, right? I mean, with so much data and a lot of it conflicting, how do we find that solid ground, that island of reliable knowledge? Well, today, we're going to explore the answer by looking at how the experts do it. And we've got a great guide for this journey, Professor Andrew Booth. He is a world-renowned expert who has spent pretty much the last 3 decades dedicating his entire career to building the tools we need to navigate this exact sea of information. Now, the field that Professor Booth helped pioneer, it has a name, and it's a really powerful idea that's kind of changing how we approach knowledge itself. It's called evidence synthesis. So what is it exactly? Well, think of it like the science of assembling a giant jigsaw puzzle. It's all about finding all the different pieces of research on one topic, figuring out which ones are actually high quality, and then putting them all together to see that one big picture. You're creating one reliable answer from many, many different sources. And the process itself is incredibly methodical. First, you have to search for literally all the relevant evidence out there. Then you sift through all the noise. We're talking thousands of papers to find what truly matters. Next up, you appraise the quality of each study, asking, is this actually good science? And then finally, you synthesize all those findings into a single coherent conclusion. But research wasn't always done this way. Not even close. This super structured approach has really evolved over the last few decades, so let's take a look at how it all came together. For nearly 30 years, Professor Booth and his colleagues have been just hammering away at this, refining the process. That's a whole generation of researchers, all dedicated to getting better and better at finding the truth. So the journey really kicked off back in 1995, with these new specialized roles for experts like Booth. Then, a huge breakthrough came in the 2000s, with a totally new way of building research teams. But today, the challenges have shifted. Now, it's about closing that gap between research and real-world application. And, of course, navigating the massive disruption of AI. And here's a really key insight from those early days. Professor Booth realized that while researchers are obviously experts in their subject, they aren't always experts in finding information. The real game changer was embedding information professionals, librarians, data experts, directly into the research teams. They became the secret weapon for making these reviews so much better. And that brings us right up to today's new frontier. Because this meticulous, human-led process we've been talking about is now facing its biggest change yet, artificial intelligence. This is the question on every researcher's mind. Is AI going to supercharge our search for truth? Or could it actually undermine it with hidden errors? Well, the answer seems to be a little bit of both. I mean, the opportunity is immense. AI can search and sift through data at a speed and scale that humans could only dream of. But, and this is a big but, the threats are just as serious. AI can have these hidden biases baked in, it can make critical errors that are really hard to spot, and it can totally miss the subtle human context that is often so crucial. So this presents us with a really fundamental choice. With AI, we can definitely work faster, but should the goal be to produce more research reviews or to produce better ones? This pretty much sums up the trade-off. Do we use AI to just churn out thousands of rapid reviews, covering way more ground than ever before? Or do we use it to help us humans conduct deeper, more thoughtful, and ultimately more accurate reviews? It's that classic dilemma, right? Quantity versus quality. And Professor Booth's perspective really helps clarify this debate. He points out that, look, we already struggle to get high-quality research applied in the real world. So if that's the real bottleneck, does just creating more research actually solve the problem? Maybe the goal shouldn't just be more, but more useful. So what does the road ahead look like in this new era? Where do we go from here? Well, the consensus among experts seems to be that the future is all about partnership. AI won't be a replacement, it'll be a co-pilot, handling the heavy lifting so that humans can focus on the critical thinking. This means researchers are going to need new skills, like AI literacy, and there's going to be an even bigger focus on making sure these findings are actually actionable in the real world. And this brings us right back to the heart of it all. When you look at Professor Boot's career spanning almost 4 decades, the central pillar has always been this: making evidence accessible and, most importantly, useful. It doesn't matter if the tool is a library card catalog or a super sophisticated AI, the mission is exactly the same. Which leaves us with one last thought. As AI gets better and better at searching, sifting, and synthesizing, what's the one skill that will remain uniquely human in this search for truth? Is it our judgment, our wisdom, or maybe it's just the simple ability to ask the right questions in the first place? That's definitely something to think about.